Hey, welcome back to another episode of Difficult Podcasters. Difficult indeed. My name is RandomlyRJ Jr. Kelly, you got that beautiful painting behind you. Did you do that yourself?
My sister did actually.
Mm-hmm.
It's downtown Austin or a portion of it.
Yeah, I,
Yeah.
I love the whole wine and paint thing. I don't know if that's
Mhm.
what she did, but nonetheless, I like that how that's a big deal.
Yeah,
Um,
she painted
my
both of them. The other one's like a breakfast at Tiffany's. You just can't see the top.
I think
Yeah.
people should always invest time in their in some type of art, no matter if you're an artist or not. I think it's like really good for your mind, body, and soul. Kind of is that
The creative
cheesy?
outlet?
Yeah.
No.
Mm.
It's so funny because I was scrolling through social media as I tend to do, looking for fun little sounds to do
Sounds like
on
a horrible waste of time, but
on
okay.
TikTok and Instagram. But we talk about this all the time. I'm such a movie buff, and there was a clip of an old, like Montgomery Clift movie, and there was a quote where the female character says, "I wish I was more creative." And he comes back and he's like, you're very talented at creating difficult situations.
Oh, so basically, you're good at not many things. Well, we could
But
relate
you
to that a
can
little bit
create.
because we
You're
do a lot, but we don't execute it perfectly.
No, no.
But we
I mean,
try, we
you
try.
know,
I'm having the hardest time keeping my eyes open today. And that is not to say that we in our 38 episodes have not done episodes where I've been more tired, but I feel like I'm literally transported back to around the days that you and I met each other when we worked almost 20 years ago in Los Angeles radio on the intern promotional street team department. And it's that weird feeling where you feel like you got like just knocked down and you feel like you did sleep enough, but that wake up is like,
when your
gosh,
eyes are
somebody give
like
me a
still hot, like around
mm,
here, like in the inside, you feel them kind of burning, but they're open. It reminds me of like a Wango Tango day or a Jingle Ball
those
day.
16-hour days that
Yeah,
you
that were
still
almost.
mhm.
Yeah, where you have to be at work at 6 a.m. and you didn't leave work until 2 a.m. or sometimes later.
And I thought past 35, past 40, my body couldn't take it no more or do that type of wake up. And it's not like we are doing our episodes so early today or anything like that. I think it's just an accumulation of a couple things. So I went to like a wedding, like a family friend's wedding this weekend, and
Oh, that's tiring within itself.
I think I drank a lot on the weekend. And I don't know if you're like me, but at our age, at our old age of over 40, um, I have said this, and I'm sure you have too. I could only do one outing a week. Like I can't do a Saturday Sunday combo. So I did a Saturday and then a Monday night, situation.
Okay.
So I think the two of those things have me like, whoa. Oh, and I drank Corona for the first time in a long time because I'm a vodka
Yeah.
water kind of guy. And I drank the good old Corona, and maybe it just transported me literally back to being 22 years old or something. Because I'm like, Kelly, I can't open my eyes. I'm so tired. So if you see me blinking, that's what that's about.
Oh, I mean, it was my job to take people out for drinks and to drink for years. And since I've not been in that line of work anymore and having my own business and stuff now, I don't drink as much.
Mm.
And my tolerance is kind of like plummeted. And now it definitely takes me a good like 2 days if I overconsume. 1 or 2 drinks, I'm good. I just like
Yeah.
pop half of an ibuprofen PM before I go to bed, and I wake up and I'm fine. And that's kind of become my norm because I'm old and my body aches because of all of the crazy strenuous things you do when you're event planning and street teaming and setting up remotes and all the things like that it puts your body through, and the lack of sleep. Ever since I worked in radio my early days, I've never been able to sleep longer than 4 consecutive hours in a row. I can go back to sleep, but I wake up every 4 hours. It's some bullshit, I'll tell you that, guys.
I personally think it's something to talk about, and that's not like what our episode is devoted to, but bad sleeping is really something that I just don't enjoy when it happens to me, and it does happen a lot. Part of it is the bullshit, and Kelly could agree with this, the bullshit of like, when you are pursuing an industry. For us, Kelly did publicity, she also did radio, I did a lot of radio, I did a lot of production. There's just this like there's a complete lacking of taking care of your body. Like no one cares because they're like, you just have to work harder. And it's like, but if you think about this, like we are as humans, we're just as we're so similar to like you have to go to your charging station, and if you don't go to your charging station, if you're or if you don't go get gas in your car, how's the car going to perform? So I find it so odd that we have really jacked ourselves up as people and decided, oh no, just push through. Like
Right.
you don't think like so many people I know already push through, and so for the words to always be like push through or work harder, team no sleep, team shut your effing mouth. And
I'm telling you, the best advice I never took was to stretch every day. I would
oh yeah.
never make time to do it, and I am paying the price dearly.
Hmm.
So, if my old ass can help you guys with anything, please take 10, 15 minutes every morning and stretch out your muscles, especially if you're going to have any sort of like physical activity through the day. If that's not something, I mean, most people kind of do that in their daily routine now, and I've started to now, but I
Hmm.
wish I had done it all those years ago when everyone was telling me I should, and I just didn't want to devote those 10 to 15 minutes. I felt like that was a waste of
Like
time,
who did
and
we think we are? Yeah, like that 10 minutes I had to like go to my
I
phone and I
needed to
had
check
to,
my email or something
what in
stupid.
the, who taught us this, and that's the nature of coming up. And I know other people come up in different situations, nothing wrong with it. Kelly came from a, she wasn't rained with money, and said go do whatever you want. Kelly had to work for every little thing. Myself,
Still do.
a blue collar town where it was all about starting from the bottom and really working your way up. So that's all good and that's all great for character, but it definitely doesn't do good for some of the things that we're talking about here. We
No.
fool ourselves to think like we got to jump right into the work. Like people who succeed all the time, sometimes they succeed because they know somebody. And I'm not saying
Mhm.
everyone who's successful got
Right.
ushered in, but there's nepotism, there's some interesting luck. So to blame it on yourself and to wake up and say I'm not going to stretch or I'm not going to get my workout in because I have to work is just something that I have done, and I feel like regretfully, I'm like
Right.
looking back like, damn, I hate when I don't get good sleep. I hate, and by the way, at our
I'm
age,
cranky. I am cranky when I am tired and when I'm hot and then when I am all the uncomfortable things.
yeah, yeah. Luckily, I don't feel too cranky today. I feel just a
Okay.
little bit more like that Corona, which I have not drank Corona in so long. I'm not a beer drinker whatsoever, but I
Oh,
always say
me
if you're gonna have me drink beer, and that's such a calorie or what do you call it, carbs type.
Oh, yeah.
Beer is gonna it's gonna really make you feel.
You're gonna feel it.
It's gonna make you feel real heavy. Not that I'm not already, but the point is, I was like, oh, I'm not gonna drink a great from a brewery or something. I'm like, just give me the Corona, take it back to the old school. But it was weird. It made me feel like drinking that Corona actually took me back to the old school. I feel like I actually dreamed in old days of Corona drinking, which I used to do for all of those years. You know what I mean? I've only been a vodka water person and 3 limes. Vodka water
Mm.
and 3 limes is my drink. Yes. Um, but I've only done that for the last, 5 or 6 years or something. But I loved my Corona beer. It
Isn't it
was.
funny the things that act as a time machine for you that just hit those brain
Mhm.
waves in the right way that just takes you to fun and great places that you can revisit from your past? I love
Well, they say that, photographs do that and then
that. Mhm.
smell and stuff like that. But you never think, well, you do hear people say it, but I never put it together. Taste.
Yeah.
Taste does that too.
Well, I guess it's
Um,
anything that hits all of your like one of your heightened senses is just going to
mhm.
kind of transport you back. I mean, to fonder memories,
Yeah. When you had a nice tighter waistline than you do now. I think
right?
another thing that brought me back, and not to get too personal, is I had a friend who most of my friends now, I will say, you like, I don't have a ton of friends that are like from the junior high days or the high school days, and I do see them around and stuff like that. I just don't like have that much contact with a lot of those people. No, I'm just saying those people who have kids and they just went a different life versus like Kelly. When we started radio, and I met you in 2003. I was working at the radio station in 2002. Those are the people I stayed in great communication with, right?
Mhm.
So because a lot of them do similar work, and we just have a little bit more of a bond. However, I think another thing that's bringing me to nostalgia, and again, not to get too personal, is a dear friend who is of my age. Um, and was like a neighbor of mine and was like the life of the party. Um, I believe the word is she had passed away, and there'll be a service and everything like that. And not to be dreary or anything, but I'm like, it was amazing to think how many memories just like fluttered through my mind, just being like, wow, that is such a finality that she did pass. And I'm not getting into any of the details of those last couple of years and how difficult they were, and I'm talking about real difficult stuff, that she was going through. But I just like had smiles and a little bit sadness all in the same breath. She was a year older than me, and she was bold. She was the bold one. I was the little chicken, oldest child. And I went to 3 elementary schools, so I never really got comfort when I started school.
Mhm.
I was always the new person. I was always embarrassed. I didn't have an older sibling to help me out. It was always embarrassing. 3 elementary schools. So when I was finishing elementary, this was the neighbor when we finally moved. And she's like, oh, you're coming to junior high, I got you. And she was like showing me the lay of the land. And I just think about like she did that same step in high school. And we've lost contact, of course. But another friend of mine had messaged me this week and was like, oh, yeah, this particular person, everyone was worried about this. But yeah, she did indeed pass. Details I will spare, of course. But I was happy and sad all in the same breath. And I don't even think about all of these memories, Kelly. I think
Mhm.
of our radio memories because I think that's where my life really came alive. But it was
Right.
really funny how um, all of these like junior high school, basically, if you watch the TV show like The Wonder Years, all those really interesting like hormonal, like
Yeah.
dances and hanging out and being cool and choosing to I'm gonna try a cigarette or not, like all of those things we do in junior high and high school. It just came running back to my mind. But so I
Well,
think that's
yeah, you were very lucky to have someone in your life like that at that age to kind of take your hand and say, I've got you. And
mm,
I think for that to be the first memory that floods back to you is so significant because it was one of the first times you felt like someone did have you.
mm-hmm,
And it's nice to see that and to feel that and to think back throughout your life about all the people that have come and gone in it, whether good or bad. And it's just like what I was telling you, like I'm in a very reflective state and I think you're starting to go through it now. And
oh,
maybe
you
it's
did
something
say that.
we all do once we hit our early 40s. We start to kind of look back and see like how did we live our life and are we happy with the choices that we made and all of that. But it's like I'm so sorry to hear about your friend. It's just yeah,
Yeah,
it's
and
tough.
it's not like it's this huge, like I just have been, I've heard the information. It is
Right.
sad. You do your own mental prayers for the family and stuff like that, and I think there'll be a service. So I'm not like hung up on it in that way, but I almost like selfishly, I was even feeling a little bad. I won't name her name, but I was like, I should be like focusing on her, and I was focusing so much on me, but that wasn't a tribute to what she gave, and it just really
Right.
kind of opened my mind too. I'm like, I hope that I have given to people. We're much of a taker type of people. We always take and we get from people. I mean, we're charitable and we give too. But anyways, I just feel like sometimes we forget to give. And
Mhm.
giving is anything. Giving literally is lighting up the room and making somebody feel better. This particular girl was a year older and way more bold than me, and she had an older sibling. And so I think she always kind of knew stuff. I was always the little like oldest because I'm the oldest sibling and
Mhm.
went to 3 elementary schools. So I was always like, oh, I don't know. I was never the cool kid. And suddenly this girl was, and it really lit me up a little bit. So I was just like, wow. When you think about the age of our 40s, because we've mentioned it a couple times here in this podcast, is it easy for you to decide what is one of the best things about being in your 40s and what is one of the more challenging things about being in your 40s? Do you think you could answer that? Because I got some stuff going in my mind. What do you think?
I do. I think one of the best things about it is that I will believe that I am so much more well rounded in my thought process of things. I like that. I mean, I've always been pretty diplomatic, but there was a lot of emotion always attached to it. So I didn't always make the right choices or react in the right ways. I let my emotions guide me too much. And now that I'm older and I can kind of look back, I've tend to slow down a bit when it comes to that. Just yeah, exactly. Just in general, I mean, I'm so much more like a reactor. I like go after like all in. I don't stop and think before I react. Was
Mhm,
always my thing, and anyone has ever kind of seen that side of me can attest. I just kind of like do it and think about it later,
mhm,
and I'm switching that around a bit and trying to be more conscious of taking a beat and really thinking about what's going on so I can make a better decision about how I'm going to react to certain
mm.
things. And
That's what you would say is one of your
it's one of the best
the
things is
better
being
things
able to
about being
slow
40.
down and kind of take a look around and really look at what's going on without being so overly emotional. And when
Mhm,
I was younger, I mean, I'm a very passionate and emotional person anyway, and I just really kind of led with that, and I'm peeling that back a bit now, which is nice.
yeah.
Yeah, one of the worst things is
I
that
can
everything
see it.
hurts.
Is that what?
Everything
Oh,
hurts.
I guess you and I, we both work really hard within what we do to create and make a better lives for ourselves in this stage. Both of us have worked for like big companies before, and now a lot of what we do is very much on the independent side, which AKA means working almost all day every day unless you put the boundary on it. So I agree that yeah, there's a lot of hurt, not hurt like sorrow. Oh, not that kind of hurt, but hurt meaning yeah,
Like
you're not
physically.
properly nourishing yourself, you're
A
not
bone
sleeping.
hurts.
Yeah, you're not sleeping well, and it's all something that we could take for granted when we were younger.
Yeah.
Your bones would not hurt if you didn't get proper 8 hours of sleep, but now they will. So I really want to make it a mission for us to really step up and
Yeah.
really we are so here's what we'll do. You and I are so accountable on everything. When we talk about dating, boy, we give it to each other and give it to each other good. We do not sugarcoat anything. When we talk
Right.
about career, we're in each other's face, but we're also very supportive too.
Mhm.
Even I had a little situation a couple days ago where I was real sad about a thing, or frustrated rather,
Mhm.
and Kelly knows that push and pull to be like, shut up, or yo, I got your back. Like I understand what you're saying, but maybe one thing we need to do a little bit better is like, have you been drinking your
Self-care.
water?
Yeah.
Have you been going to doctor visits? And I think that's something that anybody who enjoys what we do, I hope that they could say, wow, this is a nice place for people around my age. Listen, a 23-year-old could love our show because we're amazing and
Well,
sexy.
I mean,
But I don't think that there's a lot of spaces that are really focusing on what is it to be a creative person past 30 something years old, 35 years old, and still here and not going nowhere and loving what we do, but we don't have necessarily the big limelight. If you're a celebrity,
right.
you get access into a world. We don't have that, but we know our show is good. So I think taking care of ourselves will be something very worth the while.
Well, it brings up also an interesting thing about just kind of like, and I don't want to get into politics or anything like that, but just in,
No.
the healthcare resources that are available to us anyway. So
Hmm.
being self-employed or being, in a minority neighborhood or, kind of in a, lower middle class, which is where I grew up, the access that you get to healthcare and all of that is not readily available. I mean, there's, some things even now with the limited health insurance and all of that as a self-employed person that makes it difficult to have every test you need ran and all of this. And I actually had a similar situation to you. I had a friend of mine that I've known since I played t-ball, since
Oh
like
wow.
way in elementary school. She unfortunately passed away that recently, and I just went to her funeral, and she was such a strong and vibrant person. And we knew each other when we were really young, and we kept in touch, loosely on social media. But I always loved watching her life. Like, she stayed in
Hmm.
the neighborhood, but she was very into community outreach. Her and her husband, they did a lot of things together, and they did what, kind of along the lines of what we want to do, and they did it in their own way. And they were always doing community outreach stuff, and to watch how the community came together for her, when she did it, was a beautiful thing to see. And just kind of like knowing that's where I came from, that's where we came from. And though, you know, when you look around and you give back to a place, people are going to be there for you when you need it. But there was also news stories done about her because unfortunately she had cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And when, you know, by the time it was diagnosed and all of that, it was kind of late and doctors gave the runaround because of insurance issues or things that the insurance didn't cover. And it's all the things you hear all the time, you
Mm-hmm.
know, but we as a people have to be a little bit more diligent to force the issue and try as hard as we can to help each other to get those answers and, you know, get out in our community and try to make those differences. And it's just, it's sad to see that. I mean, the same thing happened with my cousin when, you know,
Mm-hmm.
when she was sick. Same thing happened with me when I first got diagnosed with COVID. Nobody wanted to get me tests. And I'm like, I
Oh
could
yeah,
have
you
died
were
from
early.
pneumonia
Yeah,
because I
you
was
were
super
early.
early. And,
Yeah.
you know, they were kept telling me like, it's no, it's this and that. Luckily for me, my mom was a nurse. And I was like,
Mm.
Mom, something is not like, I feel like I'm going to like, something is not okay.
Yeah.
And so I forced it and I was finally able to get what I needed. But that was really scary. And it just,
Look.
I mean, it goes into a
Yeah.
whole thing and I don't want to go down a rabbit hole about it, but we need to be self-aware. And when you don't feel good, you can't put it off to tomorrow
Mm-hmm.
because there might not be one. And we have to take care of each other and we have to take care of ourselves.
By far the most difficult conversation we even have. All our difficult conversations are like, this person's so stupid. But this is a little bit more of a personal episode because we're just kind of breaking down some stuff, you know. And again, the beauty of us is we are both over 40 years old and have a 20-year friendship, you know, with tons of mutual friends or whatever too, and great stories. And it's just like what to talk about today. You know, there's only so much we can do, like getting excited about, you know, the big pop culture, you know,
Mhm.
moment or the big movie, and we definitely do that all the time. But this episode felt just a little bit different. Like let's assess, let's talk about the
Mhm.
goods and the bads of 40. I think the goods of over 40 is more. I don't want to say I'm out here trying to burn bridges, Kelly, but I feel like when you're over 40, you're like, well, you're so confident in your decisions. Not that you weren't at 32, not that
Mhm.
you weren't at 28, but at over 40, you're like, if somebody were to tell you because you confidently made a decision, someone's like, oh, you know, you don't want to burn the bridge, burn the bridge, burn it down. Meaning, if I'm not on that side anymore and we're moving over here, I don't give a care what's going on this side. You know, I'm will burn it, burn it, burn it to the ground. And that is something that sounds so dramatic, but it's something that I feel like over 40 really became part of me, where I was like, whatever my decision is I don't want to say it can't be broken, you know, like, you know.
No, but it's one of my favorite lines from a Sex in the City episode that Charlotte says, because she's made a choice that she's not confident with, and they're kind of giving her shit about it. And she's like, I choose my choice. I choose my choice. And
Mhm.
I think about that all the time because even if you're on the fence, if you feel that that's right for you, you have to choose your choice.
Yeah.
And if someone else doesn't like it and they're going to try to take you down or tear you down for it, you're right. Set that shit on fire because you don't need that for you.
And we wouldn't say that when we were younger. We would not
No,
say that
absolutely not.
because somebody could know somebody could know somebody could know
Mhm,
somebody, and you're trying to pursue this, and you know you don't want to have a bad reputation. But when you get over 40, you're like, I've done what I've set out to do, and I've had peaks and valleys of success
mhm.
and failure, but I'm I'm still here, you know. I'm still here, and now I get to write the playbook the way I want to. So yeah,
Exactly.
that's my favorite part about being over 40. And it's not saying all my decisions are right, it just means I'm passionate about them. And the only people that I let come into that is people that I know and trust and colleagues and stuff. I don't go to Twitter and say, I wonder what Twitter thinks about this burning bridge, or not, let's say I'm not even a burning a bridge, but this passionate decision that I made that nobody
Mhm,
understands. I'm usually like, I made this decision. It's right for me now. There's no second guessing because I'm over 40 and I know myself more than I did at 28 and at 32. The only people that I will allow in and to give a little bit of discourse and, you know, motivate me, or, you know, have a different perspective is like you know, like friends that I really know.
oh
So that's
yeah.
my favorite of 40. The least favorite is just, you know, metabolism. It's like I've struggled with weight my whole life, and then I got to a good place, and then once you get over 40, it's like, oh no, it just we just like just gave up.
It's like
Metabolism
super glue.
just metabolism said, you're on your own, buddy. And I'm just like, Well, I'm like, excuse me, metabolism. I have not made the money that I want to make yet to be able to do the Khloe Kardashian. You know what I mean? Well, oh yeah,
Oh my
she
God.
worked out really hard, didn't she? You know what I mean? I haven't made the money to kind of like, go the Khloe route and nip and tuck, but so that part is the worst. But being in your 40s is very special. I give a lot of credit to people who are in their 40s who maybe had this really wild ride in their 20s and got married and had kids and stuff like that, and a lot of them are getting a divorce and starting over. I also identify with the people, of course, who never got married because their career was their baby. I'm in that boat. And I love being single. It's something I always advocate for. Like, not saying kids aren't the greatest thing ever, but they never happened in my journey, so I'm never going to feel bad about that or feel like I'm lesser than. And I think society sometimes likes to do that to you.
Oh, for
And
sure. I cannot stand
yeah,
that part of being a single person.
yeah.
It just it's not okay. If somehow having a career is less than having no,
And
no, it doesn't have to be one or the
you and I
other.
wave the red flag or whatever flag. We wave the flag and say, no, like you can still be everything you want to be. And like having a child or having, being married, those are great things. But I don't want it. Here's what I don't want. I don't want people to start getting at that age of like, and we've probably done it, 36, 37, 38, where you're like, oh gosh, I'm gonna be 40 and these things have not happened yet. I want people to be like, so what? Life is beautiful. And wherever you end up is where you end up. It's a blessing for those people who had kids and got married or whatever, but are a lot of them happy? That's the
Right.
thing.
Yeah.
They're not as happy as me, um, but it's just some perspective to think about. And I really want to be like, sort of a champion of that. Like for all of my single female friends who are of a certain age, I always shower them with love, like
Of a
I don't
certain
want
age.
of a certain age, or even, okay, let's go younger. My sister's 10 years younger and I never really heard her talk about children, and now she's getting to the age where her friends are starting to either have kids or talk about it, and now she's kind of talking about it, but she doesn't have anyone she's dating at the moment. So I
Mhm.
always am like, listen, I support your, it's different for a woman for sure biologically, but if this doesn't happen, you're still a beautiful human being. You've got a great job, you're kind to everybody. Don't let age define anything.
And it's hard. It's hard to stick with that because culture and society do put a lot of strain on just everybody. I think men and women. I mean,
Mm,
it's different the way that it goes, but for women, at least for me, it's the constant holiday question, and we're like rolling into
yeah.
the holidays, right? So
Hmm.
it's like, here I'm gonna come with like my 4 dogs, no kids or no husband,
Yeah.
but that's just not where my life is. And I've never wanted to be married or be in a relationship just for the sake of being in one. I'm just never going to do that. I've seen so many people do it. I'm going to
Hmm.
be at visiting with people that have done it. And I hang out with the people that are in it all the time. And which is fine, which is okay if you are willing to be content versus you know, fully fulfilled or whatever, to each his own. That's all on you. But I don't feel like we should judge each other or anyone else based off of the choices we make. And I think a lot of times everyone tends to fall into that sometimes. Because even us on the other side of it, we can look and be like, oh, but your husband does this in your life, you do this, all you do is
Mm,
complain about this, but look at me, I'm over
right.
here doing this and you want to judge me. So it goes both ways. I think we're all guilty of doing it.
Yeah, I
But
don't like the
again, yeah,
judgment part.
no.
Recently I had one relative was kind of saying something about another relative, and they were like, this was like a distant cousin or whatever,
Mhm.
not distant, but like generationally distant.
Mhm.
So we're close with the person, but the other family member was like, oh well, you don't want to, and I guess they were talking about me. They were like, you don't want to end up like such and such because they have this and they're still working and not retired and they have to depend on that work and they've got nothing. They've just got an apartment and they've got a dog and no love life or whatever. I guess, but this person does have a child, grown up child. But I
Mhm.
was just like, in my head, I was like telling this particular relative, how do you know that this relative is like stressed about any of that? That is your perception of life.
Right.
And by the way, this one looks like they're having more fun than this one. And so I was really like, really mesmerized by like the teachings or the quote unquote support that this
Mhm.
particular relative was trying to, you should set up your life like this because this and this and invest in this and this and this because you don't want to be like this person. And then I was like, every time I talk to this particular distant relative, they're having a ball. Now, do they have money to shower the world with? No. Is it paycheck to paycheck to a degree? No. But is there happiness? Yes. So I don't know, man. You got to let people do what they have to do.
Absolutely. You have to
Um,
let people be, and you can't project your stuff on someone else. And it's something I've kind of been going through recently with someone. It's like, I'm sorry that you're feeling like you missed out on all these things. And,
mhm.
when you compare our lives, they were very different, but there is no comparison because different doesn't mean bad.
Yeah.
Different doesn't mean I won, you lost, or you won and I lost. Different is simply different. And I think that we tend to forget about that as a society, that different isn't bad. Different is different. So
Right.
we should all be celebrated for the differences that we make. Now, if you're deciding, okay, well, maybe now that I'm looking back, I wish I would have spent a little less time on this and maybe devoted to that. But if you really wanted it, you would have done it.
I want to do another episode down the line, many episodes from now, maybe at the top of the year.
Hmm.
Um, what differences do you step in terms of dating in your 40s? Because again, a couple years ago when Kelly and I started this, we were like just turning 40, and now we're like in it.
Oh,
So
we're fucking deep
yeah,
in it.
we're in it, and I feel like maybe we'll bring on a relationship expert. We have two friends that do that,
Mhm.
and I want to look into that in the future. But um, and that's again not that dating is all be a thing.
No, no, but I had a friend ask me, it's like, why aren't you dating? Like, what's your deal? What's your type? Like, what are you looking for? And we got into this really interesting conversation. And it was a man that asked me, and he was kind of pointing out all these things about things that he knew about my life. And I told him, I
Mhm.
said, it's so funny the way that you're talking about them. I appreciate the way that you're talking about them because you're talking about them in the way that I felt that they were, as interesting accomplishments and on a positive side. But a lot of times when I'm dating someone, they look at that stuff as a negative because it makes them feel small for whatever
Mm.
insecurity they might have.
Kelly has
I said,
always dealt
and
with that.
therein lies my issue when it comes to dating. And it's probably because I tend to gravitate toward that because I want to be a fixer and I want to like
Yeah.
help everybody live their best life. And
Kelly loves a project. No.
Sophia Bush said one of the best things in an interview, and I really loved what she said because I feel like I'm a lot of the same way. She sees people's potential versus who they really
Mm.
are. And when you're always looking at what someone can be, you miss who they are and they tend to take advantage and you tend to be disappointed in all of that because you're not just accepting them for who they are. You're looking deeper than that, but they are not looking deeper in themselves. And you can't fix that. You can't do that. And it's
Well, I
such
think this
an
has
interesting
been
thing.
a very interesting conversation about being young spirited as Kelly and I both are, but then getting over, becoming, 38, 39, 40, and now we're in our 40s. I think this was just such
Mhm.
a great, like, scratching the surface of what it is to just, be as cool as you ever were and have as
Mhm.
big of dreams as you ever did. But like, we're over 40 now. And like, what differences do our lives, occur? Like, what are the differences that occur? How are we there for our friends in a different way? I think
Right.
even since we've done the show, we've connected even further. I'll tell you one thing though, Kelly. 40 is fun, but you know what's even funner than that? Are
Hmm.
you are you
I'm ready.
ready?
I'm ready. I'm ready.
Let's go. Viridian Row, creativity never goes out of style, is
Yes.
the brand that has been supporting us since day one. Go to viridianrow.com if you want to support what they do. They've got a ton of apparel, a lot of creative stuff. And by the way, if you want to support us as well, patreon.com/randomlyRJ Jr. is where I put additional content. Go to difficultpodcasters.com, which you're already kind of up in the mix, and you'll see a ton of stuff in terms of links or whatever, and the products that Viridian Row has. In fact, I do have a couple images of some of the products that they have. So definitely, if you're into anything in the vein of creativity, some dynamic quote t-shirts, which we've used previously on the show, and I think we might start using them again, or have a difficult podcaster's mug. We get everything through Viridian Row, and the thing that I always say is the best about them is they are based out of Texas, but they are a small business and it's a sister duo. And I just think that's something really special, in this day and age, especially with podcasting. I was listening the other day, Kelly, and I go to Spotify, and it's like it took a minute and 45 seconds maybe for a podcast to start because there was all these commercials and they were so disingenuous. And I even went onto the one that they're promoting, which is Kim Kardashian's new show. And I was like, what is this? And it was such I'm not saying what she's doing is not good, because it was in the vein of her advocacy of, maybe some of the legal stuff that, is definitely wrong. So I'm not gonna knock that. I do think Spotify should have invested with somebody else. Kim's not the person to do that. That's just my opinion. But what I'm saying is the whole concept of our podcast, we're more of an independent thing, and we've got a great sponsor like Viridian Row. We want to show them love. You go on these big sites and these big celebrities, and everything before they hit the microphone, look at, I'm getting mad, is disingenuous. Everything that they do before they hit the mic, and you can tell it, you can see it, even if they're doing good work, like Kim is doing good work. I'm not going to knock that part. So for us, it's just a little bit more exciting to work with a brand called ViridianRow.com. And also, you know what? I have hazel eyes, so I like the color Viridian. It is just so similar. Anyways, did you have any thoughts on that as well?
Well, they also do custom stuff, so you can get with them and create something of your own. So they have one of the sisters is a graphic designer, so she can work with you if you have your own idea that you want to bring to life, which I think is really fun. So in this day and age, when with so many creators in the world, and if you have an idea and you don't really know how to put it on a shirt or on a mug or on paper or canvas, whatever, they can definitely help you out with that. So check out the site or shoot them an email to get more information.
Kelly, if you have any other things, we could wrap out in a little bit, but you know what I wanted to do? Whoa. We said we were tired. I was like,
say it 3 times real fast.
Did you know what I wanted you to do? He drank Corona last night. Maybe it's still in the system. Yes. Kelly, do you know what I wanted to do? We had a great episode talking about all things, how life used to be in our 20s and our 30s, and now we're over 40 and we still hot and we doing what we're doing. But I think the creative process is so across the board challenging and rewarding, and you always have to pivot and try new things. And I wanted to say, I wanted to give a shout out actually to somebody who actually used to give us some content when we first started our show on Difficult Podcasters. Rants was a podcast that was so fantastic. He's been doing it for I think 7 or 8 plus years, and he decided, and I have such an opinion. He decided to, sort of put the podcast on pause. And I had lunch with him recently, or we had green juice. And I was telling him, I'm like, I'm so happy for you to make that decision, because we are not like, we don't have to do this. You know what I mean? And when it becomes not fun, you quit. And I told him, I said, as somebody who's 42 years old, he's much younger than me. I said, there's been many a times where I didn't want to step away, but the creative process was so unfulfilling, or the industry was so disgusting. So I was telling him, I'm like, I'm so proud that you're ending your podcast after 8 plus years. You could always come back. Now I'm selfishly sad because I loved him being in the podcast space, because it was so exciting to chat with him and you get to bounce ideas around or whatever. And I was very supportive of that. So I'm a little like, oh, darn, he's out of the game for a moment or for a year or forever. It doesn't matter. But I did tell him, I said, you know what? Life is so much more important than than our damn show or your damn show. And I hope that I was able to affirm that, make your decisions, as we were talking about in our little segment a bit ago about being over 40 years old. Burn that bridge and go where you need to go, wherever.
But also, don't be afraid to do it younger. Like, learn from, if we can help you not quote unquote waste any unnecessary time. Don't.
Oh, she just made it like we were a joke. How dare you?
No, but no. I mean, I love my life, and I am so thankful and so appreciative of all of the great mentors and great people that I, like you, that I've had and been able to keep in my life, like ranging all the years, that have supported me, But there is a big chunk of people that didn't. There's a big chunk of people that gave me
Yeah.
a really, really hard time. And I wish that I hadn't been so afraid to get out of that situation. Instead, I let it
Yes.
invade me, and
Yeah.
then I became what I hated. And I really wish I wouldn't have done that.
There's such a foothold of once you start this creative stuff that you have to do everything and anything, burn yourself up, you know what I mean? Like just totally, get no sleep and work hard and when you have somebody who says, I'm done, like I said, I was so proud of my friend, I was so proud of Grant. I
Yeah.
was like, that's right. You draw the sand in the line. Draw
The
draw a
line.
line in the sand.
Well,
Draw
see,
a
I wish
line.
I would have burned the bridge instead of burning myself up. That's my point.
Yes, you keep on going. You keep dealing with the stuff. Even, I'm back in the YouTube space now and podcast space now. But for all those years, I was the bastard who used to say, I am not going to do independent content because I had a strong enough resume. My resume included, TLC Network, Fuse TV, tons of radio and production, American Latino for 10 years. Like it was strong. And I was like, I'm not going to do anything for free. I put that on like as something
Right.
I deserved. The industry did not. And so and the pandemic happened. And so I did decide to get creative because it became fun to do this. But I'm saying, when I was telling my friend, I'm like, yeah, there's been times in my life where I said no, because we become so, there's a foothold for us to keep creating for free. In our day, Kelly, our first couple of years, you weren't really on our team. You were on the Kiss FM team. We were on the Hot 92 team. But we would put those countless hours. And I know you guys did too. And I remember one of our older colleagues, they were like, I'm at that stage where I have done all of the coming in and shadowing this person and coming in and cutting, an audio air check and coming in and helping assist with this talent who's making tons of money and doing it all for free. And we put that line in the sand. And so I just really relish in a time where anyone, even if they maybe don't want to quit what they're doing because it is fun, but if they put that foot down and say, no, I'm not doing this for free anymore. I'm not, like, why do I have been giving and giving and giving and giving.
That there right there, that's the
Come
rock in the
on.
hard place, because that's when it becomes tough. I mean, I used to work so much. I remember I had parked my car at the radio station to go out with some fellow, street teamers. And when we got back and I was, like tipsy and, getting ready to like, call the ride to take me home, but we're in the front of the building, I'm sitting here thinking, I got to go to work. It's like 2
Oh,
in the
yes.
morning, but
Yep,
that's how
yep.
much I would work. Like, that's some sad shit. Like at the end of a fun night out, I'm thinking I got to go to my office. No,
It's like
no, that's
the
not okay.
multitask and yeah. I'm gonna pull up in 1 second. I am going to pull up just the channel so you could at least see it.
Oh yeah, but it's just it. I just want, and the Gen Zers and the millennials and like all of that now, because we're like way out of that. But it's I like that there's a different outlook on life and getting, getting your due and being compensated and all of that. One thing I don't
Mm,
like is the entitlement part of
yeah.
it. I really have an issue with that. But I
Mm,
do believe once you balance it out, everyone should be compensated for the work that they do, because,
yeah.
everyone is putting out, everything that you put out has a place somewhere, because there's going to be at least one person in the world that can appreciate it. So don't
And
ever be
I
afraid not to.
I think maybe some of the contributions with this tough decision for our dear friend Grant, who decided to
Hmm.
stop his podcast, is because he's been putting in. He was early to the party. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A lot of times I say in radio, I started in 2002. I was early to the party. By the time you started, the rest of yous started
Yeah.
doing it for free. I had already put in so many hours. So I appreciate that. And we're looking at his podcast here. I
Hmm.
appreciate that, even though he did so much and he really, is at that level where, a nice big company could sponsor him or whatever the case, or a company could partner with him, that he said, you know what? No, I'm quitting it for now, or I'm pausing it for now, because
Yeah.
I'm not going to burn myself up. And that is something that, Kelly, you and I, we didn't really do it as much.
No.
We
No.
kept working, we kept working, we kept working, and we kept working. Chances are, or not chances are, but the only difference is in our day, there wasn't direct to consumer, like doing a YouTube channel. You kind of had to keep working because there was only traditional radio, there was only traditional media, so you couldn't say, I'm going to take a pause. I mean, you
No.
could, but it was relationships you would be
But it was
losing.
also kind of like out of sight, out of mind. So,
Yeah.
I heard LL Cool J clap back at a DJ that was kind of talking shit about earlier artists that didn't make it in hip
Mm.
hop, and kind of basically talking about the irrelevance of them.
Oh,
And
oh, I know what you're talking about.
he got on TikTok and was kind of like, hold
Clown.
up.
He's a clown. Yes,
He's
yes.
like, hold up, wait a minute. But he was very respectful in the way that he did it,
Mm.
because he's like, these are things you don't know. Just because they're not making the money that other artists are making, or just because they're not getting the deals, they still pave the way to do what you're
Yeah.
doing.
Well, I
So
think, yeah, and I think the point. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, it's just like being respectful of the people that came before you, because just because there's not dollar signs all over everything doesn't mean that they didn't pave the way and give the inspiration, and somebody else just was able to take it a step further and
Yeah.
turn it into, like, everything comes from somewhere. So I hate the disrespect of that.
This is what I love, though, and this is actually why, as we're ending the show, was a really cool nod for us to say thank you to Grant's Rants for doing a great podcast all those years, and he
Mhm.
did give us early clips when we were starting
Yeah.
off, and he was just fresh to New York, so he had a fresh New York perspective, and we're covering Hulu's Difficult People. He was given some, Grant's Rants, and what I think is the best thing about this is, while I'm trying to be so supportive and excited for his new venture, whatever that will be. And I'm giving all these tips and advice, and do this. You don't want to end up like this at 42. Like just being motivational and helping him. But I'm also really intrigued that because I was not always like this. I'm a little bit more open to like, well, tell me about your decision, and wow, you're stepping away, and why. And and I hate to do this because I usually don't motivate and uplift the younger crowd, but I feel like I'm getting a lot from it. So to your point of DJ Academics is his name. And LL Cool J's commentary back and forth. The problem here is the lack of respect. So I love that the podcast people, a lot of times, we give each other respect. So whether you're the old crew or you're the 22-year-old, we usually try to meet somewhere in the middle. And if you do that, you can learn a thing or two. And I love that
you don't have to be disrespectful to have an opinion.
Yeah.
And I think that people kind of come in with that little entitlement that I can't stand, and they kind of come off that way. It's like, you don't have to disrespect me to feel bigger and better about you. Just like I don't have to disrespect you to feel bigger and better about me. Like, none of us have to do that. Everyone, you can have an opinion and dislike the content someone's putting out. That's different. Having a legitimate opinion is different than being like, oh, they don't matter, fuck them. That's not the way to go. That's not a professional thing. I see it like in big instances like that. And I also see it on smaller local levels. I mean, I've seen that happen in like the business that I'm in now, that other business owners, some of them like have, older people that have little temper tantrums and want to talk shit about other businesses. And it's like, you're in a small town. It's not a good look. Like, you don't have to be ugly to be good.
Kelly, you and I grew up without social media. It was the change was our 21-year-old era. So we remember a life of social media didn't matter that much.
Oh
We
my God, I
remember,
can't even imagine anyone capturing any of the shit that I ever did in my early
but I'm not even stressing that. Yes, I'm more stressing that we come from a place where if you said it, there were the consequences.
Oh yeah.
And the consequences on Twitter are a little bit different. Yes, it's a big old thing, and people are very rude on Twitter, and I get that stuff. But
in
now,
our day, if we said it, we probably said it to your face.
And also
or in like a close circle around.
No, but even different. If you said it and it was asinine, that might prohibit a paycheck from coming to you.
Oh no, for sure.
Now you say something asinine, you can be a Twitter viral sensation and you can monetize. I'm so glad, and mind you, I would love it if our show did a little bit better. But I'm so glad you and I come from a place where we remember that if you say something, you got to be willing to like completely back it up in a way that it's not about monetization, in a way that it's literally about we talked about bridges being, burning bridges.
Right, yeah.
You had to like sit with that. Like, and so that's the difference. The difference is, yes, we were all 20 as well, but we didn't have the luxury of saying F you and then going over to our, little apartment and, and saying, press YouTube and hey bitches, it's me. And, F the mainstream, like we didn't have that privilege. So we had to like be up in it. So I think the best thing about it, and here's my last thing, because I'm sounding too preachy and I don't want to, is just anything you're involved in. Kelly's work, my work, the entrepreneur side, when Kelly used to work in publicity, or when I worked in radio, or when I worked in production, anything you get involved in, Do your due diligence to know every facet of it. That's why, and I've seen a change in myself. And again, I never pump and advocate for the damn young kids. I'm always like, y'all have Twitter and TikTok to become famous in a day. You'll be all right. But there are times where I have went into this space where I was like a little bit of a hater of that group, the younger group,
just a little bit.
just a little bit. But what has changed it is because now I'm creating at the independent level too. So there's a little bit more of a respect. I don't have to like what they do, but there's a little bit more of like a respect of what they do, do. Yeah.
Well, it's because too, like all of that, every new generation and every new creative person and every new mind can change the direction of any industry. And I just feel like you don't have to be disrespectful and you don't have to be ugly on someone else to make yourself better. Now, it's worked for some people. It has, because unfortunately our society loves a dumpster fire, which is fine, whatever.
I hope it stops.
I do too. But just to feel good about you and knowing that the content you put out, you want to be positive, and there's still a real case of, bullying and all these things that all these younger people are dealing with and going through and all this stuff. Don't be that. Don't be, because you don't have to be that. It might take you a little bit longer, but you don't have to be shitty to be successful, is my point.
No, you don't.
I mean, it might work for you, but you don't have to do it.
I feel like I have no more opinions.
Just be respectful, be nice, and just, do the best you can and get genuine supporters and genuinely support people. And let's see if we can all just, and there's a room for everyone.
Yeah. And willing to make change and be a little bit.
And now this after school special is brought to you by.
I'll have to rewatch this episode and see if we acted like we knew everything. But there's a part of it too. We are now the elder creators.
Oh my gosh.
Not elderly, but we're like, have been doing it 20 years. We kind of do have a right to talk about some experiences.
No, for sure.
And I think it's kind of our duty to do so. Again, if anyone who's starting off, a lot of kids are winning, right away. They're 20 years old and they're like all of a sudden TikTok famous. But do they know how to manage the sustainability of being in the industry and what the human interpersonal communication is going to be like in terms of being famous overnight? Like, what we talk about, we're not trying to tell anyone who's new, don't do what you do, but understand it's not as easy as just pressing click and then winning online and then getting tons of money. There's an emotional thing with that. You know that because you were in publicity. You've seen, not to knock, but you've seen the Corys.
I have. I've seen the upside.
Referring to Corey Feldman and Corey Haim, the
I've
late,
seen, and I, knew them personally, and I see the upside and the downside, and Drew Barrymore talks about it a lot of everything she went through. I mean, I do. I have such respect for her, but there's so many in my 20-year career of living in LA and being in the entertainment industry that I saw a lot of sad shit. And I went through a lot of sad stuff and a lot of really dark days. And, I had a lot of women that should have been my advocates and should have been my mentors that were really, really tough.
I don't know how and when we're going to get to that series
but
of our show.
That's a whole other thing.
We've been talking about, we're going to get there maybe at the top of the year because Kelly's got some stories and, battling it out in Hollywood is interesting. It shouldn't even be battling, but it is. It's competitive.
No, and it doesn't, and I don't think it's changed. I mean, I think it's gotten a little different, but the battles are still there. And, and I also created battles I didn't mean to create because I let myself get sucked into being the same way. And I hate that. And I'm glad that I just don't have that. And that's one of the values of being older now, is that I can look at that and be like, damn, I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have, again, led with emotions in that way, because it was like, okay, well, they're going to give it to me, so I have to give it to you. And that's just not a good look.
Well, that's a heck of a tease for the future. Not all of our shows are going to be this personal, but I thought this was fun. We're wrapping out the show because it's actually time to end. And
I mean, we can talk forever. Clearly, you guys.
Yeah, we have to cut it. We'll extended content will be found on our Patreon account that doesn't exist yet. But do go look at our TikTok. Do go look at our difficultpodcasters.com because that links out to our YouTube channel. We have been doing a lot more YouTube shorts, and they have been, by the way, for the first time ever, our old dusty asses have been getting a lot of love on the YouTube shorts. So I think we had one that had 5,000 views. For us, that's a lot,
Mhm.
because we do episodes for an hour and a half and 6 people watch it. That's including both of our mothers. Yeah. Kelly, I gotta go. Your hair looks so beautiful. I'm so appreciative to
Oh,
have
thank you.
conversations with you at 20, at 30, and now in our 40s.
Wow, I know.
Wrapping
Yes,
up the show, thank you so much. Viridian Row is our sponsor,
please visit.
viridianrow.com. Check them out. And then go to my Patreon too, which is patreon.com/randomlyRJ. I'm so glad we're back and we had a fun episode. Take care.